This is K-12 Tech Talk. K-12 Tech Talk. The podcast by K-12 Techs for K-12 Techs. Real conversations, real arguments, and real banter on trending K-12 technology topics and issues.
Live from the somethingcool.com studios, this is the K-12 Tech Talk podcast, episode 129, almost about 129. I am Josh, here with you every week, K12TechTalk@gmail.com. Send us an email with your show ideas or topics. With me, as always, is Mark. He's in the middle tonight.
Yeah, I'm here.
And Chris, who looks like a beaten shell of a man.
I'm worn out, boys.
We'll get into that in a minute. Chris, have you? We'll get into your stories about needing help, but have you called Jeremy from Something Cool to help you out?
I haven't. I have in the past.
Maybe you should.
Jeremy's a good guy over there at somethingcool.com. I've known him, this is me dating myself, but for like 20-something years, I've known Jeremy over at somethingcool.com. Great guy. He was there when the internet was given, when the government gave birth to the internet.
I think that was Al Gore that did that, yeah.
Jeremy held his hands to catch it. And he wrapped it up in a blanket.
I think
They know their stuff over at somethingcool.com.
I think you're aging Jeremy there. Jeremy, don't take offense to that.
Oh, baby internet.
We'll just get
Somethingcool.com, they started out of their garage.
Really?
Did you know that?
No, I did not know that.
Yeah, cool story.
Jeremy's garage?
That's Jeremy. Email Jeremy at somethingcool.com.
I thought last week you yelled at me.
I think it was Jeremy's garage.
Last week you yelled at me it was sales at somethingcool.com.
I like messing with you. Email sales at somethingcool.com.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Why are you so downtrodden, Chris?
Well, we had... What is today? Today is a Thursday, so we had... I think maybe it was Tuesday and Wednesday. We had nasty storms. Like, I don't know, around midnight, 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning. Crazy winds and thunder and lightning.
Were you scared?
No, because I feel like I know where I'm going to spend my eternity. I was pretty confident in all things. But I was scared for my network. I was scared for things to be okay when I returned to school. So we had an audio codes box, like the box that sits in between phone system and intercom and bells, which is a chintzy little box, but it died. So the middle school does not have bells and intercoms.
Oh.
A couple of days before, we're a couple weeks before school starts. That's a real thing. And then today, we didn't have power at 2 of 4 of our main campuses until this evening.
Wow. But thankfully, school's not in session right now, so you're not dealing with, power issues and stuff like that with school. You at one point you called me for networking help. Did you get that figured out?
Oh no, that's still going on.
Oh, you're kidding me.
But I reached out. So that's at one of our early childhood buildings. Had power outage, and then when the switch came up, we can't get to it like we are used to getting to it. So reached out for some help on that. That's kind of funny story. Reached out for help, didn't get an immediate reply from the consulting company that we're working with on that, who's not a sponsor, so I'm not going to mention them. But then he emailed and said, "Hey, I can't reach that switch." And I said, "Yeah, that's because there's no power here." Like, it's gotten worse.
Our network problem is now a power problem. You didn't
fine.
act fast enough, and now it's a power problem.
How many people asked you why the internet was out while the power was out?
I did. This is true. So we had our elementaries had power pretty early in the morning. Matt, system administrator, he was in with me for a good chunk of the morning today. So we go over to our lowest elementary. One of the principals there says, as I walk in, I'm already having a bad day, right? she says, "The internet's down." And I said, I think I said, "No kidding." And I said, it was good. It's fine. Everything's fine.
Poor Chris.
You said in the beginning of the story that you had some serious storms and you're worried about the stuff being there. When are these like? And I'm from New England. I don't do the tornado thing. Are these storms that like that's what's going through your head? Is a tornado?
So these particular storms, they did not have a tornado warning attached to them, but they had great wind.
Yeah, you guys
Okay.
had quite a bit of damage.
Yeah, I mean, I drove around between the two towns that I'm close to today, bunch of trees down, not just limbs, but trees, and not dead trees, live trees. And like
Well, now
that's-
they're dead.
Yeah, but that's that, you've gone a little next level. It's not just a dead tree that fell down.
And you
That
guys
was
had like
significant.
9 inches of rain in the last 24 hours, right?
Pretty
Down there?
gnarly.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of flooding stuff
Wow.
going on, but literally, like, I drove around today and I see the power line down. Like I see, and that's not overly normal, but it was a really big deal today.
Just one comment with that, Chris. Welcome to middle age. You're driving around and looking at storm damage for fun.
I'm gonna go check the tree line. But I mean, significant enough. Like in my backyard is a fence, and part of the fence fell down. That's real. But some people had like trees through windows and
Holy
other
cow.
cars and the whole bit. So
You also had UPS issues to go along with this, right?
yeah,
You
I sent Mike, so the network administrator that retired,
Yeah.
sent him a text today. Just because I was really feeling like I haven't reached out to Mike since he retired.
Oh no.
And I said, "Survived the storm?" ? Since he retired, we've had 3 dead UPSs and 2 dead server hard drives and 2 storms.
And that's in what, 31 days since
I
he's
know.
been gone?
So I said,
Yeah.
LOL.
Can we go back to a few weeks ago? We started a timer of when you'd have to reach out to Mike for help.
I did not reach out. It was kind of like I just made sure he was still there.
So
He's-
did you ask him any questions?
Nothing.
Okay.
Nothing. I
Okay.
made sure
All
he
right.
was
Then you're still
okay.
going.
And he said, and I feel like he said it like this too. He said, "God wanted to make sure you'd miss me. Ha ha."
Is that what he replied with?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. What's up with that?
So, Chris,
Anyway, everything's fine. Everything's fine.
you've had a rough week with the storms. My week started out less than stellar as well. It's been a pretty rough week, just with a lot of stuff with Infinite Campus implementation. And Monday morning, I get a call from our early childhood center, and she says, "Hey, I think we just lost internet out here. None of our phones are working." It's like, well, it was just working. I know it was just working because I was just talking to you. But okay, I'll come out. So I drove out there across town, go look at it, and sure enough, no internet, can't make a call in or out. I'm like, man, and the cable modems are all flashing orange on the downstream. There's no connection. I'm like, well, that's really weird. Surely it's not storm related because this just happened like in the middle of the day. It wasn't raining. So I reset the modems, nothing. Come back, I called Charter for support, and they said, nope, no massive outage, which we figured there'd be a massive outage somewhere because of the storm. They said, you're the only one affected. And I'm like, I don't know if I believe that. So I call a couple friends of mine around the area that have coax service, and they're all working. I'm like, oh, maybe we are the only one. We sit up on top of this big hill for this early childhood center. And I'm like, well, they're going to send a technician out, but they can't be here until 4 o'clock this evening. Like that kind of sucks. This is like 9 o'clock in the morning. So I'm telling the director, you're going to have to go all day without internet, without phones, so you may want to go over to central office. So I'm walking out. I walk out the front door, and I hear this noise, a tractor, coming.
What? Do that again.
You heard it the first time.
Was it like a John Deere tractor?
It was a Bobcat, like a skid steer tractor.
Got it.
So I look, And yeah, they sound a lot like a bear. I don't know if you knew that.
I
but
got
bobcats, Mark, I don't know if you know that if you have skid steers in New England, but they sound a lot like a bear. So I look, and our maintenance director has a bunch of fence posts in the bucket of this bobcat or skid steer, whatever you want to call it. And I wave him down, and he stops, and I say, "Hey, you weren't digging a hole, were you?" "Nope, wasn't. I wasn't digging a hole. I was just removing fence posts." I said, "You didn't happen to rip a cable out of the ground, did you?" "Nope, didn't see any cables." I said, "You sure?" I said, "How long you been out here working?" "About 2 hours." I'm like, "That's about the time the internet went down. Are you sure you didn't see a cable?" "Oh, yeah. Now that I think about it, I did see a cable." So he walks me over, and sure enough, it just yanked, like exposed cable, everything, down, cuts the coupler off. So I'm like, well, there's your problem right there. So I call Spectrum back. I'm like, hey, I know what the problem is. You don't need to send a troubleshooting tech. We need a new line ran, blah, 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 blah.
Sweet, man.
The earliest they could get there was for that type of problem was 4:00 the next day. So they had to go like a day and 3/4 with no internet, no phone, nothing. It was crazy.
Did you tell on that guy?
Yeah, I did. I sent it to, well, now the whole podcast knows. I sent a text message to our central office administrators, and I said, hey, the next time you see Billy, call him the cable finder, because he just found our network cable with the bobcat. And it was funny because I went in and told the early childhood director what was going on, and I said, Billy did it with the bobcat. And she goes, how did you even know to ask him? I said, here's the thing. I said, anytime there's an outage and there's a tractor or a bobcat nearby, you can bet dollars to donuts that bobcat, that tractor had something to do with that outage. So there you go.
Hey, Mark, do you do a lot of betting dollars to donuts?
Well, yeah. What do you mean betting dollars to donuts?
Is it like I didn't know if you guys did
Here
that
we
in
go.
Boston,
I'm
like,
going to make fun of my
Yeah.
use of the English language again.
We bet, yeah.
He's
Lots of
making fun
donuts
of the
and
phrase
dollars.
dollars to donuts.
No, I know. But
Did you know that Boston invented the donut?
Did they?
I'm sure they did.
Um,
They had the first donut shop in America.
whatever. You're full of it.
Yeah,
Chris-
we like to say we have a first of a lot of things here.
Chris, I think it's time to talk about VIZOR. They sent us the package of visors last week. They asked for a photo of you wearing the visor. I haven't seen this. I haven't seen Dean tweet this photo yet, but yes, you are donning the visor, VIZOR. Again, VIZOR.cloud/K12 if you want to learn more about VIZOR. They do inventory control for Chromebooks, check in, check out, repair, asset management, that kind of stuff. VIZOR.cloud/K12. Have they said when they're going to tweet your picture with the visor on?
Well, Dean asked me for a pic, and I was trying to figure out, like, do I
Sexy pic.
pay?
Pensive.
Do I pay a photographer? Do I get like a family pic and I choose to wear the visor in
That
the
would be
family
awesome.
picture?
Your wife would kill
So,
you, but that would be awesome.
I'm just kind of playing it out a little bit. Do I do a selfie or do I do the thing where like I'm acting like I don't know that my picture's being taken?
No, you need to do like I did on the cruise, the Costanza with the visor.
Well, I am liking the visor.
It's nice. It's
I'm
fashionable.
mostly liking that Dean that doesn't know us well. I mean, we're getting to know Dean and he's getting to know us, but we pitched that they should do visors, and here they are. They exist.
Mm-hmm.
This is the first. We don't really get listened to much, and I'm excited.
Yeah, and we'll talk about more headgear when we talk about another sponsor later. But this could be a theme for whoever signs up to be a sponsor. They have to come up with some sort of headgear to go along with their sponsorship of the show. So if you're listening and you want to sponsor, be thinking about the type of headgear. Ski goggles, like that could be a thing. Those old man, they call them, what do they call them? Flat iron caps. I love those. So yeah,
Mark, when it's cold, what's your go-to hat? Like you wear a beanie?
Yeah.
You wear a
You wear a
beanie?
sock.
What's your definition of a beanie? Ski hat.
Okay.
Do you wear sock caps?
No.
Really?
No.
All right. Moving right along. So yeah, check out
Not
VIZOR.
really opening up.
No, he's closed off tonight. I don't know what the problem is. VIZOR, VIZOR.cloud/K12. If you end up talking to Dean and those guys, tell them you heard about them here. So
Yeah, secret link is VIZOR.cloud/K12 Tech Pro, and you can get 20% off.
Oh, dang.
Yep.
I just had a brilliant idea, and now I don't know what happened to it. So, Mark, before the show, you found the MSISAC. They released a top vulnerability white paper, I think. Is that right?
Yeah, did you get that emailed? I think a lot of people had it emailed to them today, and there's also a page on their website. So MSISAC, if you are not subscribed to them, I highly recommend
It's not Isaac.
subscribing to them.
Isaac.
What? ISAC, sorry. They released the top routinely exploited vulnerabilities of 2022. So they look at all the different threats that are coming in, actually across the world, because they listed U.S., Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the U.K. helped to put this together. And they listed the top vulnerabilities that were exploited. So there's lots of vulnerabilities out there, but these are the top reasons why these particular ones were identified, and then they also give a list of the top exploited vulnerabilities at the end of the report. So definitely recommend checking it out, but they've got a couple of highlights I thought we'd go over tonight.
Hit it.
So they ask vendors, designers, and developers to implement a secure by design default principles and tactics.
Love it.
Josh, what does that mean?
So by design out of the box, they are more secure. So like when you get a new firewall, the whole secure by design thing, out of the box, you turn that thing on, default settings, instead of being rather open, rather insecure with policies and rules, the secure by design out of the box, some of those settings are automatically set for you, changed for you to be that next notch up on the dial for security. So yeah, I love this secure by design idea, and I think MSISAC and CISA and the U.S. government are going to get more and more of these vendors on board with this, and more products, thankfully, are going to start coming from the manufacturer out of the box with this secure by design mentality. Did I get it right?
And that's
Mark?
what K12. That's what K12 needs.
Yes.
I can, again, going back to dating myself, the 20 years ago when I was new tech, first big exposure to a firewall, I bought the one that we maybe won't speak of by name, that was like pretty much allow all. And it was allow all because K12, we don't know what to block and what not to block. So it made it easy. And a lot of schools went with that because it's an easy solution to implement. Those days are long gone.
Yeah.
Like super far gone.
Yeah. So
it
if you
needs to
have
be
any
bad.
if you have any systems in your network that the default username and password is still there, it's a ticking time bomb, and that's exactly what they're trying to say is this secure by design. It also it's both the vendor as well as the consumer or the customer, your obligation to make sure that you're using secure by design principles. So the other kind of broad category they talked about is end user organizations. So applying timely patches to systems. This is another one that, it kind of connects to secure by design. If you're turning off automatic updates, well, you're hurting both the design of your systems as well as the ability for you to apply timely patches to systems. So that was the first one, is attaching or applying patches. The next one is to implement a centralized patch management system. When they are seeing vulnerabilities exploited, it's because people are doing it manually and they're not doing it on a routine basis. So that was the next one, and being able to use security tools such as endpoint detection and response, or EDR tools. We've talked about that on the podcast before. This is not your old antivirus. This is your heavy-duty CrowdStrike, or what are the other ones that we've talked about?
Sentinel-1.
Sentinel-1.
Big boys like that.
Carbon Black.
You know, one of those guys, I just came up with a catchphrase for an EDR. Not your mama's antivirus. I think that sells.
And you got to say it like that. Not your
mama's antivirus. Or not your grandmama's antivirus. That's better.
And then if you put that firewall in, I think you had this idea before, Josh, like you try to get a logo from them and you put it on your website.
Yes, you put the logo of your EDR on your website. Yes.
A little lock in the corner. That idea. Sometimes, listen, and Mark, you haven't been doing this and you need to. The disclaimer thing at the end of the episode when all these opinions are our own and the whole bit, you need to kind of tweak it to be like, and sometimes Josh has really bad opinions and ideas.
Yes. Yep. I'll put that back in there.
Okay, keep going, Mark.
Well, the last one is, this is where I want to turn over to you, is to ask your software providers to discuss their secure by design principles. So we're seeing this more and more. We're seeing districts being hit, not directly, but through a third party. So my question to you guys now is, what kinds of questions are you asking your vendors? What questions do you want to be able to ask your vendors? Or what should we be doing?
The first thing that comes to my head is, and I think this is kind of becoming my immediate kind of fallback, fail-safe kind of discussion, is it goes back to the DPA, because that data privacy agreement, part of them filling out the data privacy agreement is outlining what security controls they have in place to protect PII information that they're holding from their customers. So I think that's a good discovery for a client and a potential provider to walk through that process of, okay, let's have a real conversation here of what you're actively doing to protect my data that's on your systems, on your network. And you know, I come back to Infinite Campus because that's all I'm living, breathing, eating right now. But before with Tyler, that was hosted on site. That was on a box I owned in my data center that I backed up. Now our data, and we're not the first school in this situation. You know, they have plenty of customers that have been cloud hosted for a long time, but now that data is on someone else's hardware. So Mark, that becomes a very real conversation of what are these guys doing to protect that data that's now living in their data center in Minnesota, Wisconsin, wherever the heck they are. And it's probably not even there. It's probably AWS. But yeah, what kind of critical controls do they have in place to protect that data? Chris?
Yeah.
We're always transparent on this thing. I've enjoyed, like, you, Josh, and others, like, doing that dirty work, data privacy and doing those investigations. And I've been more banking on others doing it. And then when I'm talking to the company, I feel like I'm in pretty good shape, if I'm being kind of honest. I want to be second or third or fourth in that pack. Because don't you feel like Missouri still is... It's not like it's becoming hot topic, but it's still new. It's still new to schools that we should be caring about that.
I think new is the wrong word. I think it's almost it's still in that trailblazer phase where you have probably 10 or 15 districts that are really bought in, some more than others, but you have 10 or 15 districts that are, we're doing DPAs. We're holding this line of doing a DPA. We're going to die on that hill. I think there's a large number of districts that are like, look, if other districts get DPAs, I'm going to leverage those DPAs. I'm not going to go out and actively hound these vendors because it's a pain in the butt. I'll leverage other vendor or other districts' DPAs. I don't know what that threshold or what that straw that breaks the camel's back. I don't know what that event is going to be that gets more of those districts moving from that piggyback type phase or mentality into that trailblazer group that they're willing to go out and get those agreements.
But I think a data privacy agreement, at the core of it is not a security agreement. It's not a security, right? And I think there's a really big difference between a vendor saying, I'm going to keep your data private, which means I won't share it with anybody else. I look at my privacy as I don't want anybody else to know these certain things. Security is, I get it, we're on the same page as of not sharing this data, but what if somebody breaks in? What are your measures? And data privacy agreements, some of them have clauses that say data will be destroyed at certain times and will notify the district. But do we enforce MFA on all of our vendors? Is that too far? Do we enforce a backup solution? Like all the measurements that we're talking about for ourselves,
Right.
Yeah.
do we ask our vendors any of those things? And the answer is like, no. We have privacy and that's about it, or privacy agreements.
I think from, again, I'm going to use the DPA as a crutch. The Missouri DPA, and I think it's because it's the kind of template for all of the DPAs with A4L, but they do ask vendors what NIST guidelines that they are subscribing to or that they are adhering to. So, Mark, I agree completely that a DPA is not a security document or a security plan or whatever you want to call that. It is a data privacy agreement. You're absolutely right. But I think part of what the template does ask for is what NIST standards are you meeting, and that, to me, that kind of crosses that line into a security document, and makes me feel better about what these vendors are doing from a security standpoint. Now, I agree with you. I'm not asking Infinite Campus, do they have MFA turned on for all their staff? And I don't know. I mean, we could have that conversation, but I don't know if that's a foreseeable or a realistic expectation for me to require that of them. I don't know.
Chris, what do you think?
That's interesting stuff too. Like, so, but say you do the ask and say they say no. We're not the only ones making the decision for what we're going to use in our school districts. I don't know that that's going to be a hill I can die on when my curriculum director and my superintendent and whoever else is saying they want to use this product. But Chris, you're saying they don't use MFA, so we're not going to do it. I think I lose, which maybe I get that in writing and I feel good about my life and we move on. But
I think right now it's a very hard ask of your vendors. It's a very hard ask of your organization to support that level of detail. If you were in a different industry, though, say that you're a electric car manufacturer, and you have a vendor that supplies you with your batteries, that's supply chain management 101. That if they can't supply you with your batteries, you cannot sell your car. Now, in education, we don't hold any of our vendors to that same level, unfortunately.
I look at the financial industry. Banks, investment firms, whoever, you pick one. Schwab, Bank of America, pick your favorite. They have systems that have to adhere to Sarbanes-Oxley, or what are the other big financial rules? They all have to meet that. So until there is some sort of law or something passed that says if you're holding at a federal level, states can do what they want, but it holds a whole lot more weight if the feds do it at a federal level. If you're holding K-12 PII and actually get everybody on the same page as to what PII means for K-12, you have to do X, Y, Z. I think until we're there, this is just, we're all trying to do our own things, and, we can try and hold these vendors to these rules, but they're not. They can say, whatever. If you want, you're going to sign the contract anyway. So, I think until it's at that umbrella of a federal level of a rule, I think we're fighting an uphill battle.
Lead me, Josh. Lead me.
No, I'm not. I didn't get invited to the White House, so you're looking at the wrong guy.
So last year, there are probably, if you were to stop and think about this for a second, there's probably not too many vendors that if they shut down their doors tomorrow, you'd also have to close school.
Ooh.
Right? There's probably a very, very few number, but if you think about it hard enough, you're like, whoa, wait a minute. If they don't show up tomorrow, I don't know if I can open the door for kids. In my state, in New England, there's one of the major milk manufacturers for school milk is Hood. And last March, Hood got hit with ransomware.
Oh, wow.
And had to notify all the districts. Luckily, my district was not a customer at the time. But if you're a superintendent and all of a sudden somebody comes to your door and is like, we don't have milk for school tomorrow because Hood Milk got hit with ransomware.
Ooh.
Are you able to open your doors for kids?
That's a great look at that, Mark. Boy,
Real.
a very real look. Really, from if you look at it from that aspect of providing a service that kids need every day at school, and that you probably don't have an inventory of more than 3 days worth of milk, maybe in your cafeteria, a week worth of milk. I don't know. I'm not a food service director. Yeah, that's frightening. I don't know what other commodity in your district would keep you from opening like that.
What about, going back to the beginning of this episode, Chris, without power.
Oh yeah.
How long are you able to keep school open?
Right. Yeah. I've gotten the feeling before that if we get close to the time of opening school and we don't have power, that they would call school. Once kids are there, it's a little bit different. As long as toilets are flushing and they're able to cook lunch and stuff, I think that's a little bit different of a conversation. But if it's out before they get there and it's probably not coming on, I think there's a good likelihood of not having school.
Yeah. I remember it was either this school year or last, we had a day where power outage in the middle of the day, but battery backups were spinning, so Wi-Fi stayed up for a little while.
Yeah.
So there was the noise of power out, and then the next noise was the kids going because the Wi-Fi finally went out.
Well,
a little bit later.
We had something similar a couple of years ago. It was bad windstorm. Not a storm, but just windy as all get out. We lost power. Battery backup stayed up for 45 minutes to an hour, and my son was at the middle school at the time, and power went out. The battery backup's exhausted. And my son, his teacher came up to me afterwards. She goes, I got to tell you this story. It's really funny. She goes, Jackson, when the power went out and then the batteries finally exhausted and Wi-Fi went out, he goes, oh, man, Dad's going to be feeling the expletive. And I'm like, well, he wasn't wrong. And she goes, I said, Jackson. He goes, what? What did I? It was really funny. So, yeah,
Well,
go ahead, Mark.
No, I was gonna say. So I dropped an article we can put in the show notes about this particular milk ransomware issue as well. The hijackers did demand a lot of chocolate milk in that issue, but they talked with the superintendent who had to notify families, and in this circumstance they switched from milk to juice. It's not a terrible situation to be in, right? Water or juice, and then they made it through. But yeah. I can think of half a dozen vendors that we would be in a seriously difficult situation if they told us tomorrow that they could not service us.
Who would that
be? Way more than
Mark?
half a dozen.
Give it.
Yes, let's list them all. But
but yeah.
Start with utilities. Start right there.
Right. Well,
and yeah.
Bus service. If you contract a bus service, if your contracted bus service is hit with something and they can't get to their transportation system, anything like that. To a degree, your sub system. You subscribe to a service that calls substitutes or whatever.
Yep. Oh, I thought you were talking about subways.
No, we don't have subways here, Mark.
We'd have a huge problem if the subway went down.
Well, so actually, that gets back to these storms. There was a couple of years ago that we had enough rain in St. Louis that it flooded 55 and closed 55 coming into our county. And we had a number of teachers that live in St. Louis County, and we closed school. We couldn't have school because we had enough teachers that were north of the river that was closed that we couldn't have school. It's not a hacker supply chain issue, but it's a highway issue. And who would have thought? Totally bizarre.
Who would have thought?
Who'd have thought? Mark, on that, let's come back to this article in a second, Mark. I want to talk about the top vulnerabilities that MSISAC talks about. Chris, real quick, though, can you talk about KCAV?
Yeah, this is kind of a little, you don't have to be from Missouri, probably use these guys, but Kansas, Missouri, maybe Midwest,
Oklahoma.
KCAV, Oklahoma. That's Kansas City Audio Visual. They were a proud sponsor of Midwest Tech Talk. They did our after party. They played some, it was like Tech Department Family Feud for the kickoff event. Anyways, we want to give them a shout out today. They can help you with your TVs, with your smart boards, with your interactive projectors, all that kind of stuff. So check out kcav.com if you're needing some help with that.
I remember they were at Midwest Tech Talk, and they had one of those really cool interactive projectors in the gym. What were those called? I can't remember. Man, that was fun. I played on that.
Lou or something?
Yes, Lou. Lu with the 2 dots over the U. Man, that was a lot of fun. I was sweaty that day. So this MSI
interactive playground.
Yeah, those are super cool. Learning and PE at the same time. Who'd have thought?
What?
So back to this MSISAC article. The top vulnerabilities. Mark, you want to play a game? Let's see if Chris can guess.
Mark, do you want to play a game?
Let's see if Chris can guess some of the routinely exploited vulnerabilities in 2022 in that table there.
I mean, what kind of detail are you asking him for? The CVE or
no? Not yes. The CVE. I want the CVE number. No, just manufacturer and maybe what it was. Chris, can you think of one?
This is gonna go really well.
Yeah, I think we just manufacturer. Let's just start there.
Yeah. Okay, that's fine.
Like the top ones?
No, they list like 10 or 15. Clearly, you don't have the article open, or you'd be cheating by now.
I mean, I'm gonna take a guess at one, and then we're gonna say nice things. We're gonna tear them down, then build them up. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
I feel like I know what one of them is going to be.
Okay.
I'm gonna ask a question. You're gonna say yes.
Okay.
Are they a proud sponsor of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast?
They are a sponsor. Proud is a question because we keep coming up with product suggestions for them. Yes.
Is it Fortinet?
It is. Fortinet is on this list from the 2022 most routinely exploited vulnerabilities in 2022. And I don't think these are ranked in any particular order. I could be wrong. But yes,
no order.
No order. Okay. Fortinet is on the list, but so is Microsoft. So if you're going to be in a group of
Microsoft,
people,
I was going to say Microsoft next. That's an easy one.
I mean, that's an easy. I mean, yeah, Exchange server. I mean, if we wanted to get down to the product line, you could even throw a dart and Exchange server. Yes. How many? There's what 1, 2, 3, at least 3 CVEs on this list of Exchange server alone. Fortinet's only on here once.
So play devil's advocate on that because we know Microsoft. I'll tell you what I'm thinking. We know Microsoft always gets attacked because they are Microsoft.
Right.
Like, they are widely used. I think you could throw Fortinet into that. Like, Fortinet is known to be a great firewall, so let's go attack it.
Well, and I think that the same logic that you're applying to Microsoft, Microsoft is so huge, it is used in so many places, it has this wide install base. Fortinet is similar. It has a very wide install base. So yes, their threat is going to be larger because they have more firewalls out there. They have more FortiVoice out there. They have more FortiSwitches out there. So it kind of reason would dictate that they are going to be a target. They would be on that list because they do have such a wide footprint. The other one that Log4j, obviously in the last year, that's been huge news. Was it last year this time that Log4j was huge? Let's see, what else? VMware.
VMware's on there multiple times.
VMware.
SAP, Oracle.
Yeah, F5. Man, you don't hear about F5.
VMware, that was just that was in the K-12 Tech Pro Weekly Digest. There was another vulnerability from VMware exposing admin credentials that's been patched.
Manage Engine, that was a big one at the time. I remember that. Authentication Bypass AD Self-Service Plus. I know a lot of people that use Manage Engine for that. So, these are all, kind of a retrospect. They really should have done this like year end. I guess really though it's for 2022. It just maybe.
Did I win the game?
You won 5 points. Okay, we'll give you 5 points in the game. That points they roll week to week. So next week we'll.
Mark, how many points do you have?
Next topic.
You have 34, Mark.
Oh, okay. All right, thank you. Zoho is also on the list.
Yeah.
Hey,
Zoho.
do you tweet? So on X, do you still tweet?
No, it's X.
Do you tweet?
No, you're making X's. Nice sequitur. Nice total rail jump.
Do you re-X?
Yes, I believe so.
And you X at somebody?
Yes. Great.
I don't know.
Forethought and product placement.
Chris, do you mind after this? I'm going to X something. If you could X my X, that would be great. It really helps me with my.
It almost sounds like
viewers,
you're
right?
asking Chris to put a hit on an X. X your
Whoa,
X.
that got dark.
Yeah, that got dark fast.
We'll put the link to this CISA and MSISAC vulnerability in review or year in review, whatever it's called. We'll put that in the show notes for tonight. It is worth reading, just kind of the top hits and top things you can do to kind of help yourself. So this is something we've talked about a couple times. We haven't talked about it in a couple weeks. The deadline is still coming up. I believe it is in October now. The Google third-party application stuff. By now, everyone should have that alert when you're logging into the Google admin console. You should have that alert to go in and configure or do the settings for your Google third-party apps. We've talked about it. I don't know what episode numbers it was. We've talked about it more than once about the number of third-party applications that we found where authentication at a minimum and sometimes drive access or mail access was being granted to third-party apps. So Google is taking the steps to kind of prevent that, especially with their under 18 accounts, which those settings took place a couple of years ago for YouTube, I think. So if you haven't logged into Google Admin Console, you probably will be in the next week because school is going to be starting. You're going to see this alert about Google third-party apps. You are definitely going to want to dedicate some time to running through your third-party apps. We had a couple thousand, I think 3,000, 3,500 third-party apps that we had to filter through and either turn off access, allow access. There were valid, and we've talked about this. We don't want to beat a dead horse, but it's worth looking at. We've had valid apps, and we've had severely invalid apps, adult websites, that kind of thing, for authentication purposes.
Josh, I think every person in our position is going through this this situation right now. You look through the list of all the apps that have been logged in, and you see some things that aren't supposed to be there.
Yeah, very content.
What do you do, Josh?
Oh, you block it. My default, Mark, you should know this. You should know this by now.
Obviously, yes, you're blocking those websites.
Who do you call, you mean?
Do you call? Who do you call?
Yes.
Do you just block it and call it a day?
No, I went the step on that instance of that rather adult website, and it was just authentication access. It wasn't drive access or anything like that.
You don't know that they looked at the content. It's just authentication. Really, kudos to them for using the Google single sign-on button.
I did call the building administrator for that building and said, "Hey, we just found this. You might want to have a conversation." What they do with it is out of my hands. I'm reporting it to the building administrator.
Kick it. It was episode 124, A Fish Too Far. We unpacked third-party apps quite a bit.
We also have Pate in the audience who also just said, block it, but don't report anything.
Yeah. I think
Pate's for the people.
Pate needs to make an IT management book, like IT management according to Pate, and just lay it out. Like, it would be a bestseller. You got ISO 9001. You've got what are the other big ones, Mark? ITIL, stuff like that. We need to come up with a Pate management certification, a PATE certification.
The PAT sounds perfect.
PATE certification.
Like if you get a 32 on your PAT, like you're a good CIO, a good tech director.
I think Pate just realized that he's the one who's logged into those sites on his
No, Pate would never do that.
Pate's going through, and then he realizes, he's like, oh, I got one. And he's like, oh, that must have been me on accident.
Pate would, no. I hold Pate in high regard. He would never do that.
I did, I guess it's been 2 weeks ago, had a teacher reach out, because I pretty much I blocked, if I was going to block it for our kids, I went ahead and blocked it for our teachers, and then I'm going to let the future kind of dictate variations to that. But teacher it was one of those like visit websites, get money for gas.
Oh,
and he had like $100 saved up.
OnlyFans?
No, not OnlyFans. Upside probably.
He had $100 in his account.
Oh,
so I had blocked it. So I moved. I let him get in it for a week to change his email address.
So that's nice of you. Pate has just commented and said, "Pate ain't that dumb," and you gotta say it with Pate. Pate ain't that dumb. Work email just for woke or walk. I guess he's cooking Chinese food on the walk with his work email.
You had him fired up. He couldn't even type on his keyboard, right?
Well, he types one-handed, so that'll be his next response. I'm typing one-handed. So yeah, Pate understands work email is just for work email. That brings up a thought. So next week we have our new teachers. Teachers are starting to come back. We have our new teacher orientation next week, and I get to give the presentation an introduction to the IT department and how mean I am about sending phishing emails and how you need to, if you're using a USB drive, you really need to encrypt it. Keep your work stuff at work. Keep your home stuff at home. Don't intermingle the two. I don't want to see your tax returns or your divorce decrees in your personal email because I get alerts about PII sharing rules and stuff like that. So every year we go through this. We're hiring a bunch of people this year, so it'll be a dandy good time.
They must really look forward to that session.
My superintendent loves it because she likes to see me squirm and give presentations. She gives me trouble. She heckles me. It really is a good time. I have a good time with it. I make jokes about the IT department, about myself. We talk about some real things, some phishing examples that some staff have fallen for in our district as an example about the damage that they can cause. So it's a good time, and we get them logged into their accounts and stuff. So
you need to incorporate the bobblehead this year.
I might. That's a very good idea.
It is a good idea.
We're 3D printing a cowboy hat for my bobblehead at the office, by the way.
Oh,
very nice.
Good idea.
Garrett.
Ooh, that'd be fun to sell accessories.
Yeah, right. We need a bottle of bourbon to go with it, though.
Kind of weird that there'd be text like changing your clothes, though.
Yeah, it's fine.
I love how Josh just talked about he's got to give the lesson to other people, like, oh, don't use your work stuff for personal. And here's like, I'm going to print a cowboy hat from a bobblehead.
I'm not printing the cowboy hat at work. Garrett has a 3D printer at home.
Good.
Okay.
Good cover.
So we do have a listener email, and it's from a rather frustrated listener. I could feel the tone in the email. James from Idaho emailed, man, we need like a Casey Kasem music in the background. James from Idaho says, that was my Casey Kasem. If you couldn't tell.
It was really good. It was really
I know. So long story short with James's email, James ordered a bunch of Chromebooks this year, and they were delayed multiple times. The vendor had promised they would be there in June. The vendor has delayed twice. They just showed up this week. And instead of being the complete order of almost 1,000 Chromebooks, they were about half. And they are halfway through unpacking these Chromebooks and have yet to come across a single power adapter. He has sent a couple emails to the vendor with his disdain and his frustration. What would you guys' take or response be on this? A little meeting with the vendor per se. How would you start that email?
To that vendor or to
Yeah.
the next vendor I'm going to move all the business to because this one
Clearly
can't get
keep
the
up.
job done.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of James's take on this. It's, we're already 3/4 of the way down the road with this vendor. We've already received the devices, but good Lord, this has been difficult. From my standpoint, it seems like for the last, I don't know, at least 3 years during COVID, probably 4 or 5 years, every year I pick the wrong Chromebook vendor. Like something goes wrong, and every year it's like, God, I'm never using this vendor again. I don't know if this is par for the course. I don't know if they're all like that. I don't know if it's like that because this is a $200 device and they're disposable and there's no margin on them. But I've had a rough way to go with Chromebook vendors. Chris or Mark, sorry.
Go ahead, Mark.
I was going to say, we've had success this summer, but one of the things when we were going out for a device this year in the purchasing process, the vendor during that process told us what the timeline for delivery was going to be.
Yeah.
And also gave us, like, if you order by this date, I can guarantee it here. That could be something that in your selling point, you're asking for a timeline in the future.
What's your recourse if they don't hit that deadline? It's not like you're going to pull your PO.
I mean, don't get me wrong. The recourse while you're in the middle of a rollout, there's not much you can do when that kind of stuff happens, and I'm sure that everybody's dealing with it. I just think that when you think about your vendors, you need to think about who's the next vendor, because everybody wants repeat business, and if they're not going to deliver, you can say to them, "You did not deliver on your promise." There may be no financial recourse. It's water under the bridge at this point, but next time, hopefully you have another option.
I will say the vendor that we bought from this year was the vendor. Every vendor in the last 3 to 4 years has promised to put our Chromebook cases on the Chromebooks before they arrive. The vendor we purchased from this year has been the first vendor to actually do that. So that's been nice. Chris, what are your thoughts?
So with Chromebooks, this is what has worked for me for the last several years. And I don't know, again, is it just a luck of the draw thing or whatever, but so we do 3-year leasing typically at our school. We don't buy Chromebooks. We're always leasing these bad boys. So around December, and then here's the side note is that I like Lenovo Chromebooks, and they typically come out with their new model around, I think it's like February, March-ish, and maybe the others do too. I've not paid attention. So around December, I'm posting that we want to buy Chromebooks, and I'm picking the model that's currently going to be old. I'm not picking the new thing coming in February, March, or whatever. I'm picking the old. So I'm getting a decent discount because they're wanting to push those to get rid of them. But then we lock into that, even though I don't want it until July 1. So then we work out that they're going to sit those Chromebooks in their warehouse until I ask for them July 1.
Yeah,
that's
so
smart.
the deal is done and the stock is there, and they're literally waiting for me to say ship them, and that's worked for us for several years now.
Yeah,
that's smart. Yeah, I think at the end of the day, being able to plan early, as best you can, and then if you can be flexible with a different model, I know that's really painful to do, but when times are tough, that might be an option too.
That's what we're doing. We're compromising on the model. It's also helping with the budget because, again, we're negotiating through an older model that's getting ready to go. It's like buying the car that is a year old or whatever, but it's still a brand new car, but you're going to get a good deal on it kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yep.
All good ideas. Chris, do you want to talk about Extreme real quick?
Yeah, Extreme Networks, a proud sponsor of the K-12 Tech Talk podcast. You can email dmayer@extremenetworks.com. I'm getting ready to get into my IQ stuff. I see my switches in there. I'm going to get some training on it. I'm excited about it.
All right. Yeah, if you want more information about Extreme, holler at Dominic. He's a good guy. So what else is going on, guys? We had a dead mole in the office this week. We were kind of shocked to see a dead mole in a big concreted area, but
it's weird, man.
The best thing we can figure is he hitched a ride on the pallet of stuff we had delivered that day. It's completely dead. It was bizarre. it was so weird.
Like your Chromebook, like the Chromebook palette.
Yeah, it was weird. It was really weird. What else going on? Anything, Chris, besides storms, teachers coming back, new teacher orientation, students?
Yeah, that's next week for me too. We did an email to all of K-12 Tech Pro. It's on the community. I want to say I tweeted it, but
someone did.
Do you just say you X'd it?
Oh, yeah.
I X'd it out? That's stupid. And I like Elon. Like, what are we doing? Is it a tweet still?
No, it's not a tweet.
So I X'd this out. I don't. Anyways, we're putting the feelers out for a K-12 Tech Pro, and it would be in conjunction with the pod, a technical summit. So you can yeah. So jump on Pro, jump in your email if you get those emails from us, or jump on X or LinkedIn, whatever. Click the link. We're putting the feelers out for it. So we pulled several of the states that have the most listeners and the most K-12 Tech Pro memberships, in those surrounding states areas. We want you to tell us where you might want this conference to be, what month might be the best, and then there's some questions about content, that kind of thing. So if you guys don't want us to do a conference that's a national conference, we won't. We'll stick to Midwest Tech Talk. But I'm wanting to do another conference. I think I have Josh and Mark decently convinced to do it with me. I know Eric and Jay over at K-12 Tech Pro, Eric the intern, he's all in. But it's going to be a technical conference. It's not going to be just us sitting on a couch talking like we are right now. We're going to bring in legit presenters and talk tech, not talk, teacher tech conference kind of stuff, but talk technical stuff, configuration changes, get in deep, and do some learning together. Maybe, unless you guys say you don't want it, then we won't do it.
A couple comments. One, I'm sitting on a dining room chair right now, not a couch. Two, we need a catchy phrase, like Festivus for the rest of us. We need like a summit. I don't know, because there's a lot of summits and
there's a lot of summits.
There's a lot of summits. There's a lot of national conferences. Some young, some old. We gotta set ourselves apart from the competition.
What's above the summit?
The peak.
If you get to the summit,
synonyms. I don't know.
Whatever.
I'm just.
If you're creative, fill out the survey. Let us know.
And I'm sure the competition is listening. So they're gonna feel threatened. And
this is national, folks. This is not Midwest Tech Talk. Like my shirt says.
Ooh, national. Yeah.
National conference.
We're coming for you. National conferences, summits. Our final sponsor for tonight. Shoot us an email, k12techtalk@gmail.com. Fortinet. So last week we talked about the Forti hat. We had a listener email us with an outstanding idea, and I hope Chris Illingworth takes this to the brass at Fortinet, the Forti Fedora. That's brilliant.
And that's your jam, Josh, isn't it?
Oh, I would love a fedora. A nice fedora with the word Forti on the front. Yes. Absolutely. Mark, you could rock it too.
Mark, you feeling that?
Nope.
I know you could, Mark.
He wants the beanie.
Yeah. He wants the visor. No, the fedora. Oh my goodness, the Forti fedora. That we need that. So yes, that goes along with our headgear theme on this show for our sponsors. Chris, tell us about Fortinet and who to contact if they want more information about the Forti fedora or Forti guards, Forti switches, Forti voice,
Forti everything,
Forti world.
Email fortipodcast@fortinet.com.
Fortipodcast@fortinet.com. All right, I got it. Their conference, if they have a national conference, now we would compete with that. But if they had a national conference, they should call it Forta World.
Don't they have a national conference?
I don't know. I've never been.
And isn't it called Forta World?
Oh, might be.
If it is, we gotta do a quick Google search.
Have we been invited to this national conference?
Oh my gosh.
Is that the name?
That can't be real.
Is it like a theme park?
No, but they have had this before. Fortinet Forta Worlds is a campaign created to sell Fortinet's end-to-end IT security product.
There you go. Like, we're in tune,
It's not the conference, though.
Okay. All right, so email Fortinet. No, Fortinet
Podcast
at Fortinet.
At Fortinet.com.
And that goes
Fortinet
to our-
Accelerate is the conference.
Accelerate. I like Forta World better. So that goes to our friend, our sponsor, Chris, over there at Fortinet. So any closing thoughts? Wow, we kind of gone a little long tonight, guys. Any closing thoughts tonight?
We are K12 Tech Talk, and so are you. I want to make sure that I got that in there. Keeps getting cut out. Not today.
And I think we end it right there. Thanks for listening. K12TechTalk@gmail.com. Shoot us an email. Thanks.
The views and opinions expressed on the K12 Tech Talk podcast are the personal opinions of Josh, Chris, and Mark, and do not represent the views or opinions of our sponsors or other organizations that we're affiliated with. The material and information presented here is for general information and entertainment purposes only. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next week.